What is going down, squad? We are back again, Jason, with another State of the Franchise episode. And hey, the state of the franchise right now, the San Francisco 49ers, is kind of all over the place. I mean, we're just off the back of Deebo Samuel re-following the San Francisco 49ers. Hallelujah. So that drama has kind of subsided quite a bit, but there's been other drama to percolate as well. But before we get into any of that, how are you doing today, Jason?
I'm great, Brad. It's always good to see your face. It's always good to do State of the Franchise. Wednesday's one of my favorite days, honestly. And I've said that before, but I truly mean that just because Sourdough Squad, Spicy Squad, everybody linking up to talk 49ers. And it's always one of the most well-received shows. And that just goes to speak to big time Brad, who flexed on everybody today. What was it about? What was this? What was this follower sub number while I'm scrounging? Yeah, while I was scrounging around trying to get where I'm at and everything, it's like, leave some for the rest of us, big guy. Come on, man.
I like the comment. Can you lob me 100K real quick? As I got
100K, yeah, just real quick. I mean, that's nothing, right? I wasn't asking for all of it. Just a quick lob. It's like a Steph Curry up to Jordan Poole or somebody else like that. Didn't want to use anybody different because the Dubs are still in it.
I like that. Dubs are going to take it home, by the way. So excited to see that. But of course, lots of noise. But before we get into the noise, we did see PFF drop a little hypothetical situation that I know is near and dear to your heart. The thoughts of the San Francisco 49ers, specifically Kyle Shanahan, reuniting with Julio Jones. Could that be a possibility? And Jason, would you like to see it? React.
I wouldn't like to see it. I wouldn't like to see it. I would love to see it. Let's throw out the whole idea of my favorite football player playing for the San Francisco 49ers, and that being the first time that's happened since Terrell Owens was on this team. Let's throw that out. Let's completely throw that out because that's just selfish of me. Yeah. Let's talk about football fit.
Yes.
For all the people that are saying, no, I don't understand why you would do this. It's going to get in the way of Deebo and Ayuk. Well, I don't think that Julio Jones gets in the way of Deebo and Ayuk. What I would envision, and remember, the 49ers only have a certain amount of money because they're footing the bill for some very expensive player that I'm sure we'll get into talking about for a little while.
About that.
So it would have to be something of a vet minimum, which is something similar to what you saw happen for Jason Verrett. Jason Verrett is going to count 0 against the cap, and he will be making less than $1 million. Listen, Julio Jones has made enough money for 10 lifetimes as a football player, okay?
Fact.
Julio Jones is not looking for money, okay? So it's not about stepping on Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk. It's about using him situationally and being still, even in his diminished state, an upgrade to Jawan Jennings. Meaning, down the field, red zone guy, you limit his snaps, he doesn't cost you anything, and you get to utilize this guy who, one, understands Kyle Shanahan's system, two, is nowhere near as washed as I am hearing on the interwebs. Injured? Yes. Washed? No. Absolutely not. And I would hearken this move a little bit to the Emmanuel Sanders type move, but Emmanuel Sanders actually had a bigger role. Julio Jones would be situational. He would be an upgrade. Think about the lift that it would be for Kyle Shanahan and Trey Lance to know that they have one of the greatest receivers of all time, even in his diminished state, but also has a stark understanding of this Kyle Shanahan offense. And it's just a seamless fit if you're able to get him for that vet minimum, which is what it would have to be since there's a player on this roster that's still taking up a bunch of the money. So for me, the answer is yes. And for you party poopers, you're dead to me. No, I'm just kidding. No. If you have a differing opinion, I hear you. You know, he has dealt with injuries, and that's kind of been Julio's thing. When he's on the field, when he plays, he's still not done. So for the people that say, hey, did you watch him at all in Tennessee? No, I was sitting in a cave with fingers in my ears and covering my eyes. I didn't watch any football last year, especially when it's my favorite football player. The man's nowhere near as washed as people would lead you to believe. I would absolutely love this for selfish reasons, but I think it's a seamless fit for the 49ers to make this offense even more potent and give them a safety valve. And tell me that number 2, I mean, he can't use 2 because Verrett's back, but tell me whatever number that it is that he would get, I'm buying that jersey immediately, and I will keep that forever. Julio Jones, do it. Kyle Shanahan, I know you watched the show, so yeah, do it.
Do we have an 11 on the roster? I'm trying to think. It's
Brandon Ayuk.
duh. So that's not going to happen. Do we have an 11 on the roster? No. Do we have a 9?
No, there's no 11.
No,
there's
11.
a 10.
Literally the player that everyone's expecting to
10.
take the biggest jump out of the freaking whole team.
And for so many people that have called him Baby Julio, which I don't like that comparison because I don't feel that he's that at all, But at the same time, yeah, there is an 11. There's a 10 also, by the way. Yeah, get him, Roman. Get him. Yo,
Roast
everybody
me.
get him.
Roast
get
me.
him.
This is your one opportunity to take your shots right now. Take them.
Get
I
him.
deserve it. I need to know this team better, Jason. How dare I?
A little bit. Damn podcasters.
Cash the God, says my guy Brad, my guy Aponte. What up, fellas? SDS and Spicy Squad in the building. All right. But another aspect, too, is that if you are able to add Julio Jones to the mix, and we've seen the 49ers go into last year's training camp with Mohamed Sanu. I saw Paul mention it. Like, I would say, no disrespect to Mohamed Sanu, but he was getting to that part of his career as well. But when you look at Julio Jones and just the freak that he is, and we understand it can be difficult transitioning, get it traded mid-year, trying to learn a new scheme, trying to learn a new environment. Sometimes it's not always a Emmanuel Sanders situation. In fact, I would lend to believe it's more the opposite. It doesn't work out for immediate impact. So if the 49ers are able to sign Julio Jones on a somewhat whatever deal they could figure out to get Debo, Ayuk, who wears number 11. So sorry, Julio. Can't take it. And Julio Jones. I think it's an interesting situation for George Kittle as well to be able to re-emerge as, because we've seen Kittle. He's been on and off with his usage in the receiving game. I'll sit here and pound the table for how important he is as a blocker, but we also understand the fan base wants to see him as a receiver. You bring in a guy like Julio Jones and you have Brandon Ayuk and you have Deebo Samuel and you have George Kittle on the field, then defenses are an extreme conflict, are they not?
Yeah, Brad, and I think that's the whole idea. And remember, for everybody that tells us this is a Super Bowl roster, well, what do Super Bowl rosters do? They add on with guys who can lead to that. And I think that Julio can situationally. Also, one thing that I want to point out, all of the hype about Mohamed Sanu in the offseason. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo was cursing at a press conference about Mohamed Sanu. Don't you feel that he would feel that same exact way about, or anybody would feel that same exact way about Julio Jones, who, no disrespect again to Mohamed Sanu, Jersey product, New Brunswick in the building, got you, but has never reached the heights of a Julio Jones. It's going to come down to the money, and it's going to come down to situationally, how do you use him? How do you keep him fresh? And for all of those people that were hyping up Mohamed Sanu, and remember, Mohamed Sanu understands the offense. Kyle liked that. Think about Julio Jones being a more souped up Mohamed Sanu. And no disrespect to Juwan Jennings, even in his diminished state, Julio Jones is still better right now than Juwan Jennings. He just is.
Absolutely. And you talk about the leadership that he brings. Again, he's an alpha in this league across the board. Maybe we'll see what he looks like when he gets back onto the field. But, I mean, the leadership, and 49ers seemingly hold that leadership intangible in very high regard if you look at the current roster. So maybe there is a world that exists. Again, it seems like it would be a seamless fit in regards to getting Julio onto the roster. And you just have a bunch of weapons now to surround your quarterback. But who is that quarterback, Jason? Is Trey Lance still going to be continually underwhelming? Is Jimmy Garoppolo going to be on this roster? Before we dive into the specifics of everything that we're hearing, whether it's Richard Sherman, whether it's Matt Lombardo, whether it's Mike Florio, it's Peter King, and, the constant conversations around the quarterback, just where are you at? Because I would say the state of the franchise has done a pretty phenomenal job the last month, at least, to kind of not talk about the quarterback. But as we know, the Debo drama is seemingly over. And so something else has to give, and it's back to the quarterback conversation. So what is your overall, just, I guess, high-level overview of where we are at today in the state of the 49ers quarterback room?
Brad, I don't want to be that guy to speak down to people, right? Let me ask a question though. I have good eyes. You have really good eyes.
Oh, thank you.
We were at camp every single day.
Yes.
I was at the joint practices both days.
Yes.
Did you see Chris Sims, Matt Lombardo? Did you see Mike Florio? Did you see? You saw none of these guys. So basically what I'm trying to tell you is, how can someone tell you what's going on at camp when they weren't there? And please don't tell me you're pointing at social media videos, because those are just glimpses. That's just one play. That is not what's going on. Look, I don't want to be that guy, but if you weren't at camp, please stop telling me what you saw at camp, because you saw nothing. You weren't there. I was there. Brad was there. Jordan was there. We were all there. Even, you know what? I know that nobody wants to hear this. Grant Cohn was there. He gets to say what he wants. If you have a differing opinion as to what happened at camp and you were there, you're wrong, but I'll listen because you were there. But if you weren't there, be quiet. You have no idea what's going on. I don't care what somebody told you. I don't care what you heard. I don't care what leak sources are saying. You know what I trust? My peepers and my notes and everything that I saw. You know why? I was there. Sorry. Matt Lombardo, whoever, Chris Sims, you guys have a bunch of credibility that I don't have because I'm still a guy in front of Batman stuff, but you weren't at camp. None of you were. None of you were. I didn't see you one single minute there. How dare anybody talk about underwhelming? You weren't there. None of you were there. None of you knew what was going on. Here's what happened. Trey Lance jumped out to a lead. And then the 49ers
almost right away.
Yeah, and then the 49ers wanted to level the playing field. How did they do that? They made Trey Lance do things that he wasn't necessarily good at, that Jimmy Garoppolo was good at. Are y'all starting to get it? And this is in my opinion. I was there.
Yeah, we talked. We both went on to both of our respective shows during training camp and talked about the same exact thing in real time.
It's crazy because he jumps out to this lead. It gets out of hand, and to the point where Guy Haberman and John Middlecoff, they were at camp. And John Middlecoff walks out of camp and sends the Vince Carter, "It's over" tweet, right? It's over because it was getting to that point. What happened was the 49ers leveled the playing field by making Trey Lance do things that Jimmy Garoppolo was good at. Obviously, Trey Lance is not going to be able to do the things that Jimmy Garoppolo is good at in terms of accuracy in short areas, quick timing throws. That was not what he was excelling at right then, right? Another thing I want to point to, NFL Network and everybody shows up, and then they unleash the zone read, and Trey Lance starts dominating with his legs. Look, I'm not a reporter. I'm trying to get to a certain point in my career, right? I'm building this up, draft, mobile, combine, trying to build my way, trying to build my credibility. But if you weren't at camp, with all due respect in my Mark Jackson voice, please keep your opinions to yourself. I do not want to hear it, because you know what you heard? I don't care what you heard. You weren't there. I was there. Brad was there. Jordan was there. We all saw it. We saw what happened. And for anybody that doesn't know, you're not allowed to record when the game plan's installed and when things are moving where you're actually getting to see things that would happen in game. Like, literally, we would have to keep our phone at the bottom of on our laps, and we would try to tweet things that we're seeing, and people would still be telling us, "Put your phone down," because they think we're recording. This is how you know you weren't at camp. We were. So respectfully, please stop telling me about underwhelming camp. You were not there. Go ahead, Brad. I'm sorry.
Respectfully. I love it, dude.
Respectfully. Always respectfully.
Always respectfully. Respectfully, we disagree 100%, but hey, it's okay. Let's talk a little bit about the Lombardo, because he went on to 95.7 I think it was last week or the week before, to clarify that report, because it was a quote tweet that just blew up. about the continually underwhelming. And then we're like digging, like, who could this be? We all came back to Rich Scangarello, and we came back to all that type of stuff. But back to the meat of what was continually underwhelming about Trey Lance, per Matt Lombardo, from a previous year, was that Trey Lance was struggling with deep ball accuracy and what was it, arm strength, I believe. Deep ball, just the deep ball in general. And it was a pretty interesting report to hear clarified because, again, you and I were there. We saw the first day of padded practice when Trey Lance was airing the ball, spraying, and not in the negative light. He was throwing the ball dots everywhere to the point where Jimmy Garoppolo stayed after practice, the first day of pads, to work on the deep ball. Because when we go back and we look at the entirety of training camp, again, you and I were there. We had all our freaking notes from training camp. Like we logged every play. We were working, Jason. You were right there next to me. Did Jimmy Garoppolo make more than one or two deep ball attempts a practice? Like, it was maybe we got one, maybe. And then you see Trey Lance, at least from my perspective, he was throwing dots all over the place.
The one that I remember the most is, and this is how I knew Debo was ready to, this is like, again, Debo was the best player on the field during training camp, you know, and anyone could, it's not that you could have seen what was coming. It's just, it was clear that Debo was a man on a mission in training camp. He was faced press coverage, Jason Verrett. He whipped Jason Verrett, and he is running free and clear. And this is Jason Verrett, right? Like, we're talking about the best cover corner on this team.
And he wasn't hurt yet, so he was still performing at a very high level.
100%. Whips him, and he's running down the field by himself. Jimmy Garoppolo throws it, and it's basically an arm punt to the point where Jason Verrett's waiting for it, like Tyreek Hill's waiting for Tua's catch to come down. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud? I didn't mean that.
Too soon.
Too soon. Yes. And then he stays after practice. Respectfully, one more thing I want to point out real quick before we move on. Chris Sims, don't talk to me about joint practices. Here's what I know about joint practices in LA. Me and Jordan and Leo, we were there. The Chargers were laughing at Jimmy Garoppolo. He threw an interception, and they yelled, "Y'all pay him all this money for what?" They didn't once say anything like that about Trey Lance. That is not an opinion. That is an objective fact. But nobody wants to talk about that. But Trey Lance underwhelmed. Derwin James is laughing at Jimmy Garoppolo in the red zone. And Trey Lance was making throws that you have seen to Jawan Jennings one-on-one, over the shoulder, beautiful throw within the sideline that leads to a touchdown. Give me a break, Chris Sims. How butthurt are you that the Mac thing wasn't true and your boy didn't put you on? I'm tired of it, man.
I think Chris is a little bit more upset that his Kellen Mond prediction kind of flamed out pretty hard. I think that's really what this is about.
Dude, I'm trying to be respectful because one day, God willing, hopefully, right? I'm colleagues with some of these guys. But I've got to call you out if you weren't there. Again, if you were there and we have differing opinions, I'm willing to listen because you were there. And I'm willing to listen to what you have to say. You could be wrong, and I'll disagree. But don't you dare tell me what you saw at a joint practice when you didn't know. At joint practices, Jimmy Garoppolo threw an interception, and the entire Chargers defense was laughing. That's a fact. I didn't make that up. I don't got to make that up. That has been corroborated by reporters that were right there, and you could hear it. Guys, I don't want to rile you up a little bit more, but I'm tired of it, man. I really am, man. Stop listening to these dudes that are telling you about camp. You weren't there. What do you get to? So, let's say I heard something from somebody, right? How do you know that person is making that up? Right? Like, and I think this all goes back to one guy that's not here who clearly has a vendetta of against the next guy. who wasn't even good at his job to begin with as quarterback coach. His name, Rich Mid Scangarello. You know why I call him Mid? Has Jimmy Garoppolo taken one step under Rich Scangarello's tutelage?
Put some respect on Nate Sudfeld, buddy.
That's different. Nate Sudfeld, wake up, honey, new Sudfeld dart. That's how you know we were at camp. That's how you know we were at camp. Lance makes the
That's
best
how you
throws.
know.
You know who makes the second best throws after Lance? Nate Sudfeld.
Wake up, honey.
Wake up, honey. And then you know what the 49ers did? They said, man, we can't let this guy go. We got to sign him and make sure that he's on his roster. So if you don't believe us, believe your franchise. Look, Scangarello clearly has something against Trey. I don't know what it is. And whether it's the fact that he knows that he's not good at his job and he's just leaving. It's so funny for him to talk about because Grant Cohn found a great podcast where he was talking about, well, you need a guy who's a leader and, throws with yak and shut up. You're literally describing whatever it is that you like with Jimmy Garoppolo. And you're clearly the guy who wanted Mac at 3. You know what's funny? Has anybody watched Kentucky's quarterback, the new guy that he's going to go be the offensive coordinator for? He's just like Trey Lance. So did you take this job? Yeah. Did you take this job to get away from this, to get to another guy where you were one and done in Denver, you were one and done in Philly? Like, it's clear you can't keep a job in certain places without your buddies hiring you because guess what? You're mid and you're not good at your job. I'm sorry. I'm feeling it, Brad. I'm just a little today. I'm done. I'm kind of done with the narratives. And If I have a chance to squash out narratives because I was actually at camp, then I will. And if I have a chance to talk crazy about people that suck at their job, I will, because he did. And Jimmy Garoppolo took 0 steps under Rich Scangarello. I thought Rich Scangarello was supposed to be the reason that Jimmy was supposed to have some sort of 2017 renaissance. What if 2017 was the outlier and everything that you saw about Jimmy Garoppolo is the rule?
Should we be giving credit to maybe Josh McDaniel or Bill Belichick for 2017?
What you people forget to, well, not you guys, not our viewers. Our viewers are the smartest. That's different. We're not talking about them. What people forget is in 2017, instead of Kyle Shanahan force feeding the playbook to Jimmy Garoppolo, he took the things that he was comfortable with from New England and implemented it for him so he didn't have to learn anything and do things he was comfortable with. And you know how I know? Kyle Shanahan, when RG3 was his quarterback in Washington, imported the Baylor playbook over because he didn't want to implement all the other things for him. It wasn't suited to his skill set. That's why you saw so much pistol. That's why you saw RG3 in so many comfortable situations. Guys, I need you to use your brains a little bit when it comes to how this actually works. And you know what? For all these people that are so tapped in, why does my nobody ass know all these things? It's not hard to find on the internet either. I'm just tired of the thoughts about Trey Lance and the way that you're going about it now, because now you are like drifting into ridiculousness at this point because it doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry, Brent. You can talk now. I'm sorry.
No, I love this. This is phenomenal. We call it the state of the franchise for a reason, because I think Jason and I have a pretty damn good pulse of this team, whether it comes to player evaluation, whether it becomes a making sense of media narratives, this back and forth. Like, we watch it all, we look at it all, and hey, just like Cap's saying, the pot of the people, we got the breadwinners, and we're gonna keep it spicy. We're gonna keep that spicy habanero sourdough because that's what the people want. But 2, that's where we're at. And that's, I think, reflective of the narratives of the fan base, of us getting boinked over the head constantly with this narrative, that narrative, and we having to come on and make our 2 cents of it and try to evaluate, well, how does that relate to what we've seen or what we've heard? And so it's been a wild ride, but it's a spicy squad for a reason, right, Jason? So before, though, we keep going on this conversation, because I think it needs to be had, even though we don't necessarily want to have it. Do us a favor, smash that like button right now. Sub to both channels if you haven't already. We are doing a simul stream, so make sure you hop on over to both. like both, sub to both, and get these numbers up because, the spice is still going to keep rolling. And speaking of spice, what is going to happen? Like this training camp, do you foresee an actual situation where we see number 10? Again, we saw 10 up close and personal. Beautiful man, by the way.
And he was, and I want to be clear, he was fine at training camp. He was fine.
He wasn't terrible.
He wasn't terrible.
Right. So like we can rationalize like, okay, maybe Trey Lance was struggling with some of the install or maybe the complexities of the playbook where Jimmy Garoppolo
or the things they wanted to see him improve on more than anything.
And Jimmy has 4 years of experience ahead of him. So that is going to trump a rookie in a lot of cases. Even though the talent is there with Trey, we can rationalize why Jimmy was going to come out and be the starter. Now, did we think it was close competition from a purely like on-field athletic standpoint? 100%, because just like you pointed to about the Ayuk thing, there was another one with Debo that I could remember vividly where Jimmy Garoppolo goes to throw a deep ball to Debo. Debo whooped the cornerback, is wide open, is going to score a touchdown, but it was essentially a punt where he has to come back to the football, which allowed the DB to run through Debo's face and just destroy Debo at the point of contact. And that was due to ball placement. So, like, we can look at those things and be like, yeah, like Jimmy was underwhelming at times. Maybe Trey was underwhelming at times. They were both, but they were pretty even, like when it was all said and done, right?
And there were certain times where like Jimmy had to operate the 2-minute offense and he was banging it on everybody. Every time that he was just like, boom, got it, boom, got it, move the offense.
Yeah,
boom.
he was threading, he's accurate over the middle, and we're seeing that. We're like, okay, all right.
And we're all looking at each other like, okay, like, see, this is the thing. No matter how passionate we get about what people are saying about Trey Lance, we can still be objective with the idea that at times Jimmy Garoppolo was actually very nice at what he was doing. And he actually operated the offense very well. Now, did he throw interceptions to Fred Warner in the red zone that turned into a pick six? Yeah. And who threw more interceptions in practice? Jimmy than Trey did. Trey had interceptions bounce off of guys because, wait a minute, his arm strength's not that good. But the ball's getting on people and it's hitting him in their breastplate and it's bouncing off and people are catching it. It's so funny how narratives work. So again, we can be objective and tell you in one direction that Trey was nowhere near as underwhelming as anybody wants to say. But at the same time, there were times where Jimmy looked like the guy. Like he looked like that dude. Like where he'll throw an interception, he'll come right back out, and then boom, 4 or 5 plays, and then including a deep shot down the field or like a nice throw up the sideline, boom, they're right there and they score again. Like those things all happen. But that's the point of training camp is there's highs and there's lows for everybody. One guy is an 8-year veteran. One guy is playing football for the first time in many months. And that's the difference. And you have to be able to evaluate both of them with that context. Otherwise, you are not comparing apples to apples. It's not the same thing, in my opinion.
No, it's not. It's completely different. And we have a level of expectation for Jimmy Garoppolo, right? Like we expect him to exceed. We expect him to be able to be at a certain level where Trey Lance is a bit of a what you want to call him, a piece of clay that needs to be molded.
Work in progress.
Yeah, work in progress. Perfect. Like where we can conceptualize like, okay, because to the point that we've already spoken about, Trey Lance was on fire at the beginning of camp. But didn't it feel like, based on, again, you're a smart guy, Jason. You do your work on tape. You do X's and O research. You understand at a level of how this game is played. And that's probably why we have people checking in to tune in with us and like try to hear our opinions, because we put ourselves in that realm to be able to discuss this and have an actually accurate opinion about it. It felt like there was a part of the first portion of training camp where it was like they were setting Trey up for success, and then they pulled the plug. And then they leveled the playing field. And then we've heard the reports. Well, Trey Lance started out really hot in training camp. Facts. We saw that. But then he kind of teetered off. Facts. We saw that. But what's the context behind that? What's the context behind that? Is that because they set him up to win the job, or did they actually, it could have been like, we want to see how he handles adversity in a
Right.
controlled
And
environment.
we also want to see what we want him to improve on, because no matter what, we all believe that Kyle wants more explosive offense, but Kyle still needs those on schedule quick throws and things like that. And that's the things that Jimmy is better at. Now, if they put Jimmy Garoppolo in the same scenario as Trey Lance and ask him to air that thing out in between, two guys, he's going to fail. But what they did is they were trying to see where he was in context of that. And again, one thing that I will not disagree with what Chris Sims said. One thing I will not disagree with is they were scared to go to Trey Lance. And they weren't scared because they didn't think he could do it. They were scared because the way that Kyle wanted this offense to operate is completely understandable. I get that. If he wants it to operate this way, then you can't put the rook out there. I understood that portion of what Chris Sims said. Everything else, take it and throw it in the trash. I don't want to hear about training camp because you don't know what the hell you were talking about. You weren't there. So I understand that portion. When they say scared, they don't mean scared of the player, scared of how the offense was going to operate. And please do not forget the fact that Kyle Shanahan desperately needed to have a winning season with a playoff run this year because of all the noise around it. Please do not discount that.
And we heard the noise when they went 0-4. It was deafening at one point, like where I was getting flack for just not saying that Kyle should be fired. People were yelling at me because I wouldn't say out of my mouth that I think Kyle should be fired. It got to that point. So you're 100% correct. There is a level here where Kyle needed to win. We weren't ready to just turn the page over to this developmental, because what do we talk about the roster all the time? Oh, they're win now. They're Super Bowl now. Well, experience helps push that forward. We're not naive to that fact. But again, this comment about talent, arm strength, that's where we're like, God,
are you serious? So look, all right. I would point anybody who has questions about arm strength to the Chiefs game and forget the Trent Sherfield throw, which should let you know that his arm strength is fine. His first throw to Brandon Ayuk is on a rope in his chest and he drops it. Was that because Brandon Ayuk has bad hands? Or is it because Trey's like rocketing that thing in there?
It's a completely different ball than what Jimmy throws.
Jimmy gives you a ball that's like a pillow you can catch. Trey sometimes, like right now, it's, you gotta, again, oh, it wobbles. Oh, it's not a spiral.
You said Jimmy throws the ball like a pillow you can catch.
It's a pillow. You can catch it. Throw a pillow at somebody. They're catching it. Come on. I'm sorry. That's not a knock on his arm. Actually, I feel like that's a good thing more than anything.
That makes that's a good catchable ball, right?
100%, especially in certain situations. That's the one thing that I will say, shout out to Colin Kaepernick. He needs a job. He never really learned ever in terms of
the touch aspect.
Right. It's a 5 to 7 yard throw. It doesn't need to be 100 miles an hour, dude. Put it where your guy can get it and move. And that's where Cat really never learned. And Trey is in his first few moments of playing in a real NFL game, even if it's preseason. So that can be taught. But Jimmy has learned the art of that. He knows when to put something on it a little bit more because he literally throws it in the tightest of windows and puts it in harm's way many times. And sometimes it gets intercepted. Sometimes it gets batted down. Sometimes it gets caught. But at the same time, Jimmy knows when to put touch on things and he knows how to throw a catchable ball. I will give him that. Again, you can be completely objective about Jimmy Garoppolo while refuting the things that are being said about Trey Lance that are completely obvious.
Absolutely. Maybe Jason and I would have handled the quarterback competition in a little bit more different way, being on the outside looking in. But it doesn't change the fact that I can rationalize why Jimmy started and why they gave him every opportunity, because we understand football is more than just production. There is an intangible quality that these are humans and there's a leadership factor.
Human element, all of those things. Don't discount that. Don't think that the locker room was just
the full picture. We can't just look at everything in a vacuum. Oh, Trey Lance was underwhelming in a vacuum. That's not how it works. He could have been from a standpoint of maybe like dealing with the adversity, because let's face it, Trey Lance didn't face a ton of adversity in his 1 year starting in college. That's a fair assessment. That's not something that we're taking a shot at the kid. Mm-hmm. But at the same token, we also understand that there's going to be development involved to be able to withstand that type of development, correct?
And in the same breath that you said that, because you're absolutely right, in college he saw no adversity. The reason that I'm so optimistic about Trey Lance is because of the adversity he saw in the NFL. Think about the Arizona game.
Adversity.
Right. Think about this Arizona game. So many of us had a problem with the game plan. There's no reason to keep running QB power with Trey Lance this entire time. They were this close to knocking off not the December Arizona Cardinals, the red hot October Arizona Cardinals, right? Like this
Kyler Murray MVP Cardinals.
Right. Though this is a different Cardinals team. This isn't the fall off at the end of the year that you see every single year, fraud Cliff Kingsbury Cardinals. This was the team that everybody was already like crowning at this point, right? He was this close to beating them. He was this close to scoring a touchdown that probably would have changed the game, and he got injured in that game. Seattle game, he gets thrown into the fire. Fine. You know, there's no way to tailor the game plan to that because you've installed an entire week of game plan for Jimmy Garoppolo. I get that portion of it. The Houston game, I'm tired of everybody saying it's just Houston. Their pass defense was top like 10, I believe, in the league.
They whooped the Chargers the week before.
Yeah.
Whooped them.
Yeah. So don't give me, it's just the Texans. What I see is every time that you throw something at this kid, Kyle Shanahan adjusts, and he never wavers. And that's what I noticed at camp. When he threw a bad pass or he threw a pick, the kid didn't hang his head. He went right back in there and he kept firing. This is what has me so optimistic about the kid. It's less about, we know the talent's there. We know that the kid is blazing speed. We know that he has the arm. It's about how do you respond when things are not perfect? Even if you right now, and by the way, PFF, go to hell by telling me that Zach Wilson is in a better spot in year 2 than Trey Lance is.
Jason, they killed the draft, Jason.
No, they did. They did. And they got Lake in.
They're all rookies still at the end of the day.
Yeah, right. They got Lake in. They look, Sauce, Garrett Wilson, like, what are we talking about? Like, yeah. You're in a good spot going forward. You're telling me that coaching staff is more prepared than this coaching staff? You're telling me that roster is better than the Niners roster? These are the narratives that keep popping up. I don't know what it is about everyone rushing to just destroy Trey Lance and just want to be on the side of, well, I told you that Trey was a bust because he played at NDSU. But for you to tell me that he's not in a better situation now than Zach Wilson or Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields or Mac Jones. How dare you say that? How dare you say that about any of these guys?
It's a fun time to be alive, Jason. Dean says that anytime the ball was needed to be thrown more than 30 yards, Kyle had Emmanuel Sanders do it. I think he's going back to the 2019 Saints game. What a pull there. Or Debo do it when I think he did it.
And he's talking about the Rams game.
The Rams game, yeah.
In week 18.
Hey, this is the world. This is the state of the franchise, guys. Like,
Dean,
hey, we're keeping it 100. Like, we kind of have to. Like,
you're not wrong, but you didn't have to say it. You didn't have to say it.
You're not.
I mean, let's be nice. You're not wrong. I mean, you didn't have to say it, but golly, goodness gracious.
My goodness. Corey says, can't trust Sims. Too biased. Still trying to pump up Zach Wilson because he said he was the best. Didn't look like it. Again, I say this all the time, and I'm sure you have a similar thought process. But for me, especially at the quarterback position, confidence is fragile in the NFL, and especially with rookies. And if you don't handle them in a specific way, like, listen, I talked to Zach Wilson's speed coach. Like, he told me, like, at one point, Zach Wilson was going through it. Like, he didn't know. Like, he got a early look at what NFL life was like. They had Joe Flacco in there, and Joe Flacco's, like, taking over leadership because, again, he's a veteran. He's grizzled. He's been there. He's done it. Zach Wilson's still trying to figure it out coming from BYU. Confidence is fragile. Look at all the rookies. And, again, look at the guy who had the most success. And look at the environment of belief that was built around Mac Jones. They had Cam Newton. Cam Newton, to me, heading into training camp was the unquestioned leader of the team. He's going to workouts with Kendrick Bourne. He's taking all the wide receivers out. Again, Cam Newton has an electric personality. What did Belichick do? He said, this is Mac Jones' team. Sorry, Cam. On to the next.
And, Bill is good at risk aversion and just, I don't want to deal with anything. Let's just keep it a bean. Cam didn't want to get the vaccine. I don't want to have to worry about whether he's going to be able to play, anything like that. And also, look, let's not downplay how pro ready Mac was, because Mac was.
Oh yeah,
he was 100%. And everyone and their mama knew that Mac Jones was the most pro ready. Again, you were drafting Mac Jones for the floor, not the ceiling.
Yes.
And all those people that want to remind me about, well, they should have taken back and everything. I remind people that you need to go look at Mac's last 5 games, including his first playoff appearance. And only one of those games looks even nice because he played the Jacksonville Jaguars. So relax. We haven't figured out who anybody is yet.
No.
What I know from Mac Jones is what we all thought. What I think I know about Trey Lance is what we can project. Do we know anything about Zach Wilson? He's going to have a great cast this year. And let's be clear, too. Zach Wilson was much better down the stretch last year than people want to remember. He didn't throw a pick, I think, in his last 5 games. Something like that. It was something like that. Right? Impressive. Right. Trevor Lawrence, who has been QB1 since he came out of the womb, looked horrible. And,
who wouldn't look horrible with the coaching staff that they had and the organization that he's with? Environment matters.
And we all know about our Prince. Our Prince was set up to fail.
Oh, big
and he's still set up to fail.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I'm ever going to get off of this.
Number 1 and number 2 wide receiver right now.
Darnell
Mooney and who?
Brian Pringle already got arrested. I don't know what they're doing over there.
Oh, my gosh. Pray for Justin, man. Pray for Justin.
Look, man, if Justin Fields doesn't pan out to what we think he is, sure, you're going to be able to say, hi, you were wrong. But please put some context as to why that didn't happen. Please put some context as to what's going on with Zach and Trevor and all of these guys. Again, nobody in their right mind would have seen. I mean, we knew that probably Mac was going to be the most successful, right? One, you're in the most team environment, friendly place that you could have landed. But nobody could have seen that Davis Mills was going to be the number 2 quarterback last year out of all the rookies, and he was. And that's not even an opinion; that's an objective fact.
Right.
That doesn't mean that 3-4 years down the line, those are still going to align. You still expect Trevor to lift that franchise somehow, right? Like we still, and it could not happen. It definitely could. But you still have to wait. And the other thing is this rush to be right as opposed to using new information to change and form your opinions, right? I saw some things from Justin Fields last year that were troublesome, right? And I also can contextualize that with Matt Nagy's terrible. The offensive line was gross. Bad. That team wasn't that good, right?
Allen Robinson sold the entire season.
Allen Robinson quit in like week 6. He was done. He
talking about toxicity.
Yeah, he was out. He wanted to leave. I can still look at all of those things. And again, it's a result-driven business. So it doesn't matter about all those things. Nobody's going to care, oh, your coaching staff was bad, right? Like if you're the guy, right? You got to lift everybody. It's just everything about what everybody is saying is a rush to be right as opposed to getting it right. And that's the difference.
Yeah.
I had Trey, me, I'm former NFL scout. I've got Trey Lance as a bust. I need that to be right. Even if there are things that point to that not happening.
On a certain take, rather than just being fluid and being able to take the information in and adjust your opinion accordingly.
100%, Brent. And that's, again, look, there's certain guys that I wasn't high on, that I was low on in certain drafts that when I watch them play, I'm like, man, you know what? I got it wrong. You know what's the best part about the draft process? Is checking your work, being able to say, this is where I got it wrong. And I'm looking back, right? I've got Malik QB1. He went in the 3rd round. Am I rooting for Malik to be QB1? 100%. If it doesn't happen, then I've got to take that L. The problem is so many people are in a rush to be right instead of getting it right. And that's where we are with Trey Lance at this point. You want to confirm your priors without being able to move in the right direction. That's the issue more than anything with many of these analysts, pundits, and talking heads.
Because the talking heads that you speak of, just, to pack onto that, they cut a lot of strays if they said Mac Jones at 3. So, hey, you never know. These are all people at the end of the day, and they could be paying back some previous debts. But Cap says word on the street is Mac is already peaked. I don't know about that. I think we know what Mac is from a,
There's still another level to
get
him,
better.
but that ceiling is still lower. Than everybody else.
He's going to be a glorified game manager. And again, that holds a negative connotation. But if you ask me, that is one of the prerequisites of having to be a successful quarterback. You have to manage the game. You have to be able to do that. And people like poo-poo that, but it comes with the response. It's part of the job description, and you have to be able to do it well. Justin says Lance was with Kittle and crew at the Warriors game the other day. Doesn't seem like Kittle hates Lance all that much. Question: did we ever believe that Kittle hated Lance?
I don't think that. What I do think is that, again, many players, and this is a human element that we speak about, many players are emotionally tied to Jimmy Garoppolo because the only success they've ever had in this league is under Jimmy Garoppolo. And let's get another thing clear. Jimmy Garoppolo strikes me as the guy that I would love to have a beer with. That is and again, he's my guy. Right. He's my guy. He's my friend. If he's my friend, I want to see my friend succeed. And I want to see it happen under him. Right?
Yes.
You're forgetting the human element of this portion. No one ever thought Kittle, anyone who was rational never thought that Kittle hated Lance.
Right.
Never.
I honestly think what Kittle hated was just answering questions about the quarterback. That's what I think he hated. I don't think he hated Trey. I don't think nothing. I think it was just the constant, Jimmy Trey. And it's just look, kill me. At a certain point, I'm tired of hearing these questions.
That's fair. And you saw Coach eventually down the line get upset about that. But also a lot of that had to do with Coach, you did that yourself. Either way. But
you made your bed. I got to sleep in it.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of just played this halfway or whatever. And then when people keep asking you about it, you get upset. Come on, man. Especially with the injury, that kind of made me upset down the stretch. I was just dude, calm down, man. You won't name a starter.
Still kind of there, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, well, I feel like the recent comments, especially at the owners' meeting, kind of leads you to believe that they're ready to turn the page. And then when you look at the draft picks, that kind of shows me that they're moving in that direction. Danny Gray's not here to help Jimmy Garoppolo.
Right.
Danny Gray's here to be here for Trey Lance.
Yeah.
But either way, I never, or anybody who can really put together the whole rational human element of it, ever believed that Kittle really hated Lance. And I don't think he did. But you're forgetting the human element of, that's my guy. We went to the Super Bowl. We were this close to winning. I want to win with him. We're friends in real life, right?
Yes.
And you want to see them win. Now, I understand that that's not easy for everybody to understand because, you're fans of the team, not the players, not the relationships. But you're forgetting that football is so driven by human emotion and what you can evoke from people, right? People need to get into that huddle and look in your eyes and believe. And whether we believe on the outside looking in doesn't matter, because when you're in that huddle, you need to believe that guy. And if he's your friend, and if he's the guy that you went to war with, they've won many close games with, they have gone through all of that with, then it's hard to get upset with George if he had Jimmy's back. That's the only way that I can put it. It was never about George hating Lance. It was more about this human emotion that I feel like people discount because it is a business, but it's not a business all the time to those guys in the locker room that go to war every single day with that guy. And that's the part that I feel like gets lost in the shuffle.
Absolutely. 100%. We have James Vega popping into the chat. Thank you for the super chat, my brother. He says, "What's up, Brad and Jason and SDF's faithful? Sorry if you already hit on this question.
You want me to go again?
We want to go again. You missed it. We got Aponte riled up, and I want to see it some more. But he says, what is y'all's take on Chris Sims saying that the 49ers are scared to start him? Because are they scared to start him, Jason? Are they shaking in their boots?
They were last year. To summarize, basically, we did talk about it a little bit earlier, James, but, thank you for the donation. Appreciate you. That's very generous of you. Appreciate that. Especially with these trying times with gas prices and everything. $20 feels like $1 million.
This stuff out here.
Yeah, man.
Look, you, man.
Dude, I'm driving my car and it'll say like 7 miles left, and I'm like, I'm still not going to the gas station just yet. Like I can still make it like 2 more miles.
Squeaking it out as much as you can.
Yeah. But James, realistically, they were scared. And they were scared, and I understand why they were scared. Again, when you couple with what Kyle Shanahan needed to do, he needed to put together a winning season. He needed to have a deep playoff run because he's heard the whispers about, you have only done this 1 year. Was that the outlier? Is this you moving forward in the right direction? Think about Matt LaFleur, right? Matt LaFleur obviously gets a better quarterback. Matt LaFleur in 3 years has won 13 games each year. That's 39 games. And you're Kyle Shanahan, and you are the master. They're the students. And look what they're doing. I get it. Aaron Rodgers is better. I get it. But still, you've gotta kind of adjust that. And I think that they were
kind of even now in regards to.
Now they're on equal footing with what Kyle Shanahan did this year. There's no more discussion about that. I don't want to hear it anymore. Now the only thing he's chasing McVay because McVay's got his chip. Yeah. That's all he's chasing right now. He's not chasing LaFleur or anything more. Like, there's no more discussion about teacher and pupil. Like, Shanahan is still there. McVay's obviously a little bit ahead because he has his championship, but Shanahan has multiple runs now, and now you can't dismiss it as an outlier. But what I will say is the 49ers definitely were afraid to just turn this over and have this be a 9-8 season, 8-9 season, or something like that, and have all the bumps and bruises. So in that regard, that's the only thing that I felt that Chris Sims, and I could be completely objective about this because I ripped all of his training camp stuff apart. I ripped it all apart. Yeah. He wasn't there. I don't care. I don't want to hear what anybody had to say because that's all hearsay. I could say that I saw this girl at a bar. She wasn't there, and tell my friend, and he'll believe it, right? Same thing with Chris Sims, right? Like he's hearing it from someone else. I understand completely what he meant by scared, because he meant that they were scared to take the bumps and bruises this year more than anything. That's all. So that's the one part of what Chris Sims said that I agree with.
And I will kind of expound a little bit on that. And I think that they were more scared of losing the locker room. Again, we talked about it earlier. Championship locker room, championship caliber roster that all played for Jimmy. So I think part of the issue was, if you're going to go into that season with Trey Lance as the starter without giving Jimmy a shot at it, I think the locker room might have taken that a certain way. So I think part of it was they wanted to give Jimmy the opportunity to lose the job, opposed to Trey Lance kind of sputtering out, then having to put Jimmy in after you kind of, maybe made a certain, view of the locker room or however the hell they would take it. But it did kind of feel like that was also a big part of it, because we saw the Trey packages. I think Trey Lance threw the first touchdown of the entire year. But
apparently that didn't go over well though with the locker room.
Exactly. Again, and why would it? Because they're humans and they believe in Jimmy. They're already having to deal with the headache of answering the Trey Lance questions every time they go on an interview, every time they hit the podium, every time they're getting tweeted at, they're getting DM'd. It's just like, blah, it's nonstop. So at a certain point, it gets a little frustrating. It wears on you, and you might be able to kind of show those colors a little bit. But part of it too is like, that I think is it. Is he couldn't lose the locker room, because if you lose the locker room, you're not winning any games. And
Nope.
then you lose the locker room, and if the fan base can smell it, like, oh, Kyle's got to get out of here. And it got to that point a little bit with Jimmy, but I think that's part of it. It's just like he couldn't afford like fracturing it any further than he had already kind of done. And so I think that's why they stuck with him at like literally, like, I think you were at the Chicago game, right?
Oh yeah.
You saw
That's not
like Trey
that's
Lance
not
warming up that arm, like the
right.
kid in that commercial, like, I'm coming for you,
Again,
Cam.
again, when I tell you things, it's because I saw them with my own eyes. Out of half, you guys know how you felt in that Chicago game. It didn't feel good. Trust
No.
me, the 49er fans in Soldier Field did not feel good. But what we did notice once the sideline gets there is Trey Lance is warming up. Trey Lance isn't throwing the football in under normal circumstances at any point. Guess who saved the season? Deebo Samuel. Guess what else he saved? Jimmy Garoppolo's job.
Yeah.
He saved his job. And that's not an opinion. I don't care if you believe me or not. Either if you know, you know. If you were there, and you saw. It was there, right there in front of you. I'm not going to speculate what was said on the sideline. I know that people have that or whatever. I wasn't there on the sideline. What I will tell you is Trey Lance was warming up. They were getting ready. And it was on a 3rd and 24. Deebo Samuel was thrown a tunnel screen that was supposed to give Mitch Wisnowski a few more yards to punt. It was not designed for Deebo Samuel to take it to the crib.
No.
And that is what makes Deebo so special. So make sure you pay Deebo, by the way.
Yes.
But
Absolutely.
yes, all
and
of these
we'll
things
get
are
into
true.
that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But let's see. Let's get to some of these other ones. 49ers throwback says Trey Lance outplayed Davis Mills in that game, going back to the Texans conversation that we were having. We would agree with that. Aloha Smitty says, watch Mac versus Russ from the Pro Bowl. I call him Macaroni Arm Week. Mayo Matt catching strays today.
That's
apparently.
your boy. That's your
Mayo
boy.
Matt catching strays. But let's talk a little bit of maybe the effect of keeping Jimmy on this roster heading into training camp. Obviously, we've kind of moved past the Deebo drama in a sense. Obviously, they still need to work towards getting a deal done. But when you have Jimmy Garoppolo on the roster, whether it's the 27 million that he accounts for if he's on the active roster
and healthy
week 1, correct?
And healthy, yes.
So if he's on the active roster and you look over at the cap space, according to, overthecap.com or what have you, the 49ers are at the bottom of the league in regards to available cap space. So
that's why they can't sign Julio Jones. Sorry, I didn't mean to bring that up.
And we've also been through this conversation. If the 49ers were going to go, extend Deebo or extend Bosa, they can push the cap number out so that the cap number that I think they have now would remain. So there's not
the Deebo's thing won't hit this year.
Effect.
No.
But do you think in any way that if Jimmy Garoppolo is on the roster week 1, that does kind of impact them at all with the way they get a deal done with potentially Deebo or with Bosa? Or is that kind of the outliers that if they do give them the money, they can kind of push it down the line? Or are they going to force Deebo and Bosa to finish out this year on their contract?
No, I think that in the range of outcomes, this is on the lowest available portion of the outcomes, in my opinion. I think the 49ers are literally going to play chicken with Jimmy Garoppolo this entire time, hoping, and I hate to say that they're hoping for this, but we see quarterbacks go down all the time in OTAs, training camp, hopping out of bed sometimes. What if a playoff team loses a starting quarterback? And for all the things that are said about Jimmy Garoppolo, if he goes to a team that has a good roster, that is well coached and can lead you to 9 wins, 10 wins to get you to a playoff berth, Jimmy Garoppolo can do that. He can. He absolutely can. So I think the 49ers are going to take their chances, either figure out, hey, somebody's not the guy. Maybe they get to training camp and, the Panthers get there and they're like, man, Matt Rule, no matter what, they drafted a quarterback. Doesn't matter. This is Matt Rule's last year.
Yeah.
This is last year.
Unless
if you don't win games this year,
miraculously turns it around.
Right. If you don't win games this year, if you don't show some semblance of moving in the right direction, you're fired.
Yeah.
Right?
Maybe even mid-year too.
Right. Houston, right? Lovie Smith, unfortunately, I think is a great coach. I unfortunately think he's been put in the same position that the coach before him was put in, where it's a one and done thing. And for some reason,
we're just buying time till next year.
Right. And for some reason, the Houston Texans are so intent on giving Josh McCown this job, which I have, for the life of me, no idea why, unless it's the obvious answer that's right in front of you that I will not give out. But if Lovie Smith needs to win a few games and make his case for staying, is that with Davis Mills? Is that with Jimmy Garoppolo? Now, look. Am I telling you that Jimmy Garoppolo going to the Houston Texans makes them a playoff team? Absolutely effing not. That what it means is they'll go from a 4-win team to maybe they win 6, 7, right? Like 7 games, and maybe you can
knock on the door, maybe
right, and maybe you can like sell more tickets because you're still in the playoff hunt a little bit later on down the line. And maybe Caserio is like, man, I love this guy. This is the guy that I drafted in New England. But I think the 49ers are going to slow play it in that way. But I think that when push comes to shove, and none of that stuff happens, and there's nowhere to move Jimmy Garoppolo, they have to cut him. Because you can't allow this to fester into the season. You just can't. What are you telling the guy that you spent all of this draft capital for by keeping around the guy that you have been trying to replace actively since the end of the Super Bowl? The next week you went into, we need to replace this guy, and you were minutes away from finishing the Super Bowl. Again, don't care what we have to say. Care what your front office has done and their actions. They have been actively trying to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't care about what they say about leadership. I don't care what they say about good quarterback. Their actions and their words do not match. And that's why you need to make this move eventually. And I think that when you look at the money, even if you take that money, right, and it's sitting there and you roll it over, that's $55 million over 2 years, that's a lot of money, especially in cap, and especially with the cap going up. It's still, if you move Jimmy Garoppolo before week 1, puts you in a position where you can make one of those mid-season trades that, hold on to your hats, guys, the Rams continue to make that help their team out. Now you can bring in one of those guys that another team doesn't want to pay and becomes a hired gun. And hired guns sometimes push you over the edge, and you can win Super Bowls that way. Ask the Los Angeles Rams. So for me, this cannot go into week 1 because you are sending the wrong message to the guy that you spent all this money for. And also, it's just bad business. Even if I was Jimmy Garoppolo and I pass a physical and they come to you, picture the job that you're at, right? The job that you're at. Any job. Doesn't matter what it is. Regular folk. We want you to take a pay cut. We're going to give you less responsibility, but we want you to take a pay cut. You don't have to take the pay cut, but we want you to take the pay cut. What are you going to tell them? No.
Dude, I've seen it.
Absolutely not.
I've seen it multiple times. When I was a working man out there on the front lines, like I've been at a business where, hey, you kind of messed up a little bit. They whatever, for whatever reason, weren't just going to flat out fire you. They just removed your responsibility. They docked your pay and they kind of put you in the corner. And I've seen how that
And then what do you do? No, but what do you do as an employee? What do you hop on Indeed.com and start uploading your resume for you looking for another job?
Every single one of them ultimately quit because it wasn't worth being in that situation.
So he's basically putting himself in a spot where he's making it impossible to trade unless something, God forbid, happens. Like unless Jameis Winston has a season-ending injury, or like or let's just say, look, again, and I feel like Jimmy already nixed a trade to them. Let's say Carson Wentz has a season-ending injury, and Ron Rivera needs to win games all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And now, all of a sudden, you can restructure that contract and foot the bill a little bit. So for me, when your employer comes to you and says, I need you to take a pay cut, you upload your resume to Indeed.com and you start looking for another job. And I don't care what anybody
slowly
says.
like messing with things behind the scenes. You're like, oh, I'm gonna screw this up.
Look, you show up to work every day, right? You punch the clock, you go there, you go through the motions, but you've been checked out. So
yeah, you're probably watching our show. Like, right? You're just like, you're just watching the show on company time, getting paid to watch the state.
That's my thing. That's my thing. Is football in the NFL isn't much different from your regular workplace in terms of your employer is asking you to take a pay cut. You're going to say, no, thank you. I have a family to feed. And that's where you're going to be
at the end of the day. And all businesses kind of work in a very similar situation. So it's different. It's high profile. It's a game. So obviously a lot of other things come into play, but definitely on top of it with that one. So what do you buy of this Richard Sherman take that he believes Jimmy Garoppolo will be the safety valve or expensive safety valve at 25, 26, 27 million as a backup? Now, I know you just went on to why they shouldn't do that. And I would agree with you. Like, we had conversations about this last year of why they shouldn't keep both of them heading into training camp for the kind of situation that we're in now. So what do you make more of him saying that? Because I think we can all, respect Sherman for what he's been through in the league. Again, he's dealt with this front office without an agent. He's gotten contracts from Parag with no agent. He's the one doing all the legwork up front. So he knows how these guys work. And he also has connections, and he's one of those guys. So, and he feels that the 49ers are going to keep Jimmy Garoppolo as a backup, though, to Trey Lance. Now, again, you just talked about why that's a bad idea. But do you believe the 49ers would actually do that?
I believe that what Richard Sherman is doing right now is going through what we're doing right now in terms of range of outcomes. In terms of knowing what's going to happen, I have a hard time believing Richard Sherman, because Richard Sherman told us that Stephon Gilmore was going to be a Seahawk or a 49er, and Stephon Gilmore is now an Indianapolis Colt. And there's look, Unc. Look at me, Unc. I promise I'm not trying to disrespect you in any way. I just think that you're doing what we're doing, and you're on our side a little bit now. And obviously, more people than we do, and you know more people than we do. Obviously, right? You know more people than we do. You're still going through the range of outcomes, and that is one of the outcomes. Now, whether the 49ers want to actually do that, or whether it's likely, are two different things from this outcome that Richard Sherman has actually laid out. Again, Sherm, no disrespect, bro, at all, man. Please, I promise you. It's always respectfully. Oh. And trust me that you have become one of my favorite guys from the guy that I dislike probably the most in the NFL. For obvious reasons, as a 49er fan. Yeah. As a 49er fan.
Amazing turn.
Amazing turn. That was never on my bingo card. From Richard Sherman going from the person that I dislike the most in this league to being someone that, I always have respect for Richard Sherman. It's like that Anchorman scene. Deep down, I straight up hate you, but damn it if I don't respect you. But then you come and you play for my team.
Yes, we got a movie reference in finally. Only took an hour. We need more, Jason.
No more movie pod stuff. Don't do that. But yes. I respect you. I respect you, and I respect your thought process, because that is part of the range of outcomes. It's just not likely, and I just don't see it happening. I really don't. When you look at how much money they gave Nate Sudfeld, It really, now you are starting to put yourself in a position where if this was the plan all along, then Saffold doesn't need to be here. And you drafted Brock Purdy, and
Practice
he could just
squad
be
last year.
right. And he could be your practice squad guy. You gave too much money to. You have been giving us all of the hints that this is not what's going to happen, based on your draft picks, based on the way that you've talked. Kyle said out of his mouth at the owners' meetings, if we didn't feel that Trey was ready to start, we wouldn't have been actively looking to move Jimmy this entire time. That's all I needed to hear. That is all I needed to hear. Kyle's eyes were full of bags. Either he was not sleeping from the night before, or he was out having a great time in Florida.
It was like 5 or 6 o'clock West Coast time.
It was like 7 a.m. on the East Coast. Trust me, I knew. I was up. I was glued. Averly had me up too. I know those bags. Those bags are either one or two things. One, you got no sleep. Two, you were raging the entire night because
I
Florida.
went on the night before.
Yeah,
probably a little bit of both.
Good for you. Let's go, coach. Have some fun, bro. Let's go. Have some fun. But all of those things don't lead me to believe that this is the likely scenario, even though it is one of the scenarios. So for me, what Sherm said was something that could possibly happen, but doesn't feel likely. And again, I hate to say this, anyone who's on this side of the business in terms of clicks, stories, podcasts, how do you draw people to listen to you? One, you have the respect that Richard Sherman has, but two, just mention the 49ers quarterback room and everyone's going to be drawn to your podcast. Sorry,
they figured it out, Jason, and I figured out that they figured it out like 2-3 years ago when it's all started with the freaking George Kittle tweet to Antonio Brown on New Year's when he's like, said, "Sup, AB," when AB was, just getting on to that cusp of, free agency and all that stuff. But ever since then, man, the media knows that if they push a certain button on the San Francisco 49ers fan base, we are going to react in a form of a tidal
It's shaking
wave.
the hornet's nest. It's shaking the hornet's nest. It's that's the reason that all this Mac at 3 stuff last year was happening. It's because we all get in a tizzy. And I'm including me, we all get in a tizzy because we know what you're doing, you're wrong, and we still react.
Yes.
And I am very guilty of that.
Look, we have a dual show going. We're on Aponte's channel. We're on my channel, and we're talking about it. It has become a main talking point. And again, who do we keep referencing? Richard Sherman's podcast. Go check it out if you haven't already. Go help him out. Get that listen in. But Corey has a question for you, Aponte, as our resident Julio Jones expert. He says, Aponte, do you think Julio's been contacted and waiting until money's available? I'll tack on a name to that same question. JC Treader. Is maybe Julio or JC Treader been contacted and waiting till money is available?
I would love to believe that that's true about them being contacted because, this Only Shan shirt that I would wear, I would only wear more of them and rep this more proudly if this is the power play that they're making. But I think that Julio and Treader are at a point in their career where they are waiting for contenders to come around. Again, Julio Jones has made more money. The only person that's made more money than Julio Jones, a wide receiver, in these past few years is DeAndre Hopkins. Julio Jones has made 7 to 10 years worth of money because he has been one of the greatest of all time.
He was the prototype.
He was the best. He was the best. Fast, strong, big. There's no if you built a wide receiver in a lab, it's Julio Jones.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even with all due respect to the Megatrons and
right.
Everyone else who came before, Julio was he was just different.
Julio's more fluid than Megatron, but y'all not ready to have that discussion though, because of all of the other stuff, right? And Megatron left early. So you can't talk about Julio different when he played way longer. Anyway, Julio Jones would also have the greatest catch in Super Bowl history had other things not happened. That's another thing.
Multiple.
Yes.
Yes.
But I think that Julio and Treader are in a spot where money's not an object at this point. you take a veteran deal because there's one thing that is on those guys' mind. Imagine being J.C. Tretter and being on the Browns for that long and not being able to ever really sniff any sort of Super Bowl, and know that there are teams out there that will request your services down the line that will be in line for a Super Bowl. And I think that's where Julio and Tretter are at. Now, do I think that he's been contacted? I'd love to hope so, Corey. I really would love to hope so, because that would make me feel so much better. But I do believe that both of those guys are waiting around for a team to call. Now, Tretter, in my opinion, and I'm glad that Brad brought this up, Tretter only fits in a certain amount of places. Like Green Bay doesn't need Tretter. Certain teams don't need Tretter. I feel like Tretter's kind of sitting around waiting for the 49ers to call. And I think that actually does happen once things either get moved around, you extend either Jimmy Ward, or remember, they have to move money around to sign their draft picks. So there's still moves that need to be made.
They haven't we haven't heard a single report of anyone signing.
Nope.
We're hearing reports across the league of a bunch of rookies signing.
Other guys have been signed. Yep. I think something just came across right now of somebody else getting signed, like right now, like a draft. So the 49ers still have moves to make to clear for draft picks. How much of that clears for a J.C. Tretter and a Julio Jones? But I think both of those guys have afforded themselves the time to sit around and wait for a contender. And you just hope, if the 49ers add J.C. Tretter and Julio Jones, we're going to start talking crazy on people on Twitter, on YouTube. We're about to start going nuts on people because of the limitations on terms of snaps that you would have with Julio Jones. Julio Jones doesn't step on Debo or Ayuk. He just becomes a much more explosive Jawan Jennings, and J.C. Tretter becomes
big slot, but it's Julio.
The biggest slot. Don't tell me big slot. The biggest slot. And then J.C. Tretter becomes the guy who is either warming up the seat for Donovan West, or let's go, Brad, because I included your tweet in this article, Jason Poe. So I think that's kind of where I'm at with both of those things, Corey. I just hope that they've been in contact with them, like, hey, just hang tight. We got you. We'll see you.
It's definitely what it feels like, because we also understand, like, mandatory minicamp is a glorified walkthrough, right? Like, there's no pads. There's really no contact. Obviously, it's helpful to get in the system, start to know your locker room, start to know the playbook, be able to get out on the field and walk through the motions and do that type of stuff. But veterans, especially if they have a baseline understanding of the scheme at hand, which J.C. Tretter does, based on what he was with the Browns, he should be able to pick it up. Now, the verbiage might be different and things like that, but overall, zone scheme is a zone scheme. And yes, there are variations and that types of things, but man, these veterans, they'll be able to step in just like that and be able to pick it up. So I agree. I think they are kind of just waiting in the wings, and training camp, leading up to training camp might be more of the time that we see. I don't know if any of these teams that, haven't addressed that already are going to scramble to get it done right before OTAs are coming up here in about a week or so. But overall, they're probably just waiting. And there's still a decent amount of veterans out there. Odell, Jarvis. I mean, you go down the list. There's some names out there now.
Green Bay seems primed to swipe in on Odell, which is making me sick a little bit to my stomach. But I don't think the 49ers are in position to get like an Odell. And I think that for everybody who, like, when I pointed out Julio, said Jarvis Landry, Jarvis doesn't necessarily fit the way that you guys think he does. It's Yak for sure, which is kind of Jarvis's game, but he's not as explosive as they would.
He's almost like he's like a poor man's Debo.
He's a possession receiver at this point now. Like, he's a catch the ball and get down guy. He's not a catch the ball and move up the field guy. He's going to find the hole
in the zone. He's going to squat it down. He's going to hit me.
Right. That's it. And no matter what you want to say about Julio being diminished, Julio still can catch that thing and run through people and still move up. So, again, I am very biased. So don't just, it's just my opinion.
And it's okay to be biased because it is your opinion.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why the people are here and they want to know more. Obviously, we've talked about the different scenarios. Is this a scenario? Would the 49ers cut Ebukam in favor to sign Jones?
They won't, but I would. And the reason that they won't is because they value the pass rush, which probably is smart. I'm making decisions with my heart and what I think I see on the offensive side. And I feel whatever it is that you lose with Ebukam, you can kind of make up on offense if the offense is humming with Debo, Ayuk, Julio, Kittle. Like imagine that spread. Like you're running those guys out. But I don't think they will. I would. They won't. So that's the best way I could put it.
Yeah, I think they like, Ebukam in the building, and they like the way he came on late last year.
He did. And that's smart. That's very
And
smart.
we don't know, Drake Jackson. I think Drake Jackson is a bit of a developmental prospect. I think that's why he was there at 61. Now the traits are there, but to be able to play at the NFL level, you got to be able to be technically polished, where I think he's still got some work to do. So maybe Ebukam, he's a good, I think, rotational guy at this point. And Ebukam, Drake Jackson, Omenihu, all these guys, they're going to need the numbers. And so, I don't know if they would actually do that, but again, there is a way, Jason, to clear up a lot of money real quick. I don't know if Ebukam is the right choice to clear up space.
If only there was a player that could clear an insane amount of space. There's a lot of guys that are smarter than I. They're smarter than you and I, and especially our viewers. Our viewers are the smartest, and they always continue to keep us on point. If only there was a guy that we would be able to move on from that would free up a ton of money. I'm trying to struggle to figure out where that would be.
I'm racking my brain. I don't know who it could be, Jason. I don't know. Who could it be? We just need like that, a couple, like 20 million just to clear up. Like,
just a small cap clearing of 20 something million. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. But again, state of the franchise, Jason, this episode's been spicy as all hell, and I love it because I think we're just at the point we have literally talked about this thing in circles. So at this point, we're just like, whatever, man. We're flying with it, and we're gonna give our opinions, and now we're giving opinions on other people's opinions. But guess what? That is the literal state of the 49ers franchise right now. It's quarterback. What's going on with Jimmy? What's all this noise with Trey? Why is it continuous? Like just this freaking echo chamber that Trey Lance isn't ready. Breaking news, everyone. Trey Lance probably isn't ready, but that's okay. Like he has to get ready to be ready. So like, can we just like just accept that fact? Like, please.
And the only thing that I have pushback on is shout out to the people that tell me what happened at training camp and at joint practices. And I have very good eyes. You weren't there. So don't lie. Stop saying stuff. You weren't there. And if you were there and you have a differing opinion, I am willing to listen because you were there. But if you weren't there, I don't care. Respectfully. Always respectfully.
And respectfully, shout out to the SDS. Shout out to the Spicy Squad. Today was a good episode. It was fun to kind of air it out and just kind of be loose with it. But again, shout out to everyone who hopped on. Jason, tell the good people where they can find more of your content.
Appreciate everybody. This was a really fun episode. Brad, as always, I look forward to Wednesdays. These State of the Franchises are lit because we get to do these dual streams and, we link up the Sourdough Squad and the Spicy Squad. Shout out to everybody in here. Our viewers continuously are the ones that are the smartest, that keep us in line, that continue to push us to think a little bit more. So shout out to you guys. None of this stuff is possible without you guys. Subscribe to my channel on YouTube, Jason Aponte, at Jason Aponte 2103. Can't believe I got that right in one shot. And
pointed in the right direction too. That never happened.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, shout out to all you guys on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, for all you guys that are watching. We appreciate you guys. And the content will continue. Brad, we're getting closer and closer to reuniting, buddy, and like being able to hug each other again, getting closer to training camp. And that's when we'll be able to really, really give this stuff to you guys. There's nobody that's working harder than Brad in terms of the content, man. This man is literally giving you content while he's on the stream with us through his phone as well, too. So, you guys are all tapped in with him. Make sure whoever's not on my side, subscribe to Brad's stuff. Make sure that you are, because you're missing out. And, shout out to everybody that's in here. I can't wait for training camp and to give you guys a little bit more, since we're past the draft. We're past all those other things. And now we can really start to break down football. Rookie mini camp is about to start. So we'll start to have other things to talk about. Instead of hypotheticals, we'll be able to start talking about actual football. And we're getting close. So you can kind of smell it in the air.
What I love too, what you mentioned about training camp coming up, is last year I was a rookie. You were a rookie. That was our first training camp that we went to consecutive days, and we were taking notes and we were tracking and we were learning on the job. And now we have a baseline. And again, we're talking about training camp right now from last year and refuting things that we have been able to see. We've tracked, we have notes, we can go back, we can look at. So I'm very excited to get back and be able to do that with you, with Jordan, with the entire squad, be able to get on these live streams and talk about it. And again, I think, shout out our viewers. I think they trust our opinions enough now, and we're going to keep building that trust. And so when we go to training camp coming up here, it's going to be really fun, because obviously we're going to talk about this team in a much different way than, other people who are doing this for a living. We give unfiltered thoughts, evaluations of two people who watch a lot of football. We're not just reporting on things, we're actually evaluating through our lens. So that's what I'm most excited for. So make sure that you're tapped in with both Jason and I. Training camp is coming up, and we're going to have some real football to talk about. Like you mentioned, rookie mini camp is coming up soon. So I'm very excited about it all. Again, we got the best viewers in the land, and you cannot
100%.
convince me otherwise. So again, shout out to everyone. Smash that like button on both channels on your way out. Sub to both channels if you're not subbed yet. What are you doing? What are you doing? Get it done. Just get it done. But Jason, as always, it's been a pleasure, and appreciate everyone.
Yes, sir.
Later.